Welcome to our tub. Come on in. It's warm inside, and there's always room for more.
This podcast contains adult material and is intended for mature audiences only. If you're under 18, grab your rubber ducky and find another tub. This one's not for you.
Hello and welcome back in the tub for episode 88. I'm Mr. Berg.
And I'm Mrs. Berg.
And, well, this is intro take 2. As, well, yeah, here we go. Technical issues on my part. Dumbass.
Hey, it's a Monday night.
Yes. And I didn't plug it in right. Boy, there's something that, well, you can hear sometimes. You didn't put it in right.
But at least it recorded. It's just not the quality.
We're back and recording again.
Yes.
Because it's for you, the listener.
So you're not going to hear much of us this week, at least not chit-chatting.
Well, yes, we are going to really jump right into a conversation with Casey Carter and Lorenzo. And these two, well, we've crossed paths at Exotica, as we talk about during the beginning part of our conversation. Mm-hmm. Since we started going back in 2017, 2018,
right?
Just never really had the chance or the
balls.
Yeah, really, as we did talk about, some intimidation, just their aura, for whatever reason, kind of intimidated me as well. I got to feel that she is such a strong presence of a woman. Mm-hmm. And wow. We talked prior to the interview. You'll hear us throughout the interview. Everything just flowed and got to the point where like, okay, well, we got to go. We've kept you talking for so long.
Mm-hmm. But you can sense that that's part of the reason they did this with us. And that's why they're doing what they're doing, going to Exoticas and everything, is to educate people.
It's their passion.
Right.
It truly is a passion when it comes to everything we discussed with the two of them. And we learned things about the fetish and BDSM lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And it's fair to say from the conversations, we learned some things about ourselves.
True.
As we are dipping our toes into this realm of sex and the sex world.
Mm-hmm. Heck, I even thought of some questions today that I was like, darn it, why didn't I think of that then?
Yes, and Mrs. sent me a text from work. I said, well, write it down because we're going to see them in a few weeks in New Jersey for Exotica. So as we've plugged here leading up to it, and we will continue to, November 3rd through 5th, Exotica, New Jersey, in Edison, New Jersey. We will be there Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday, recording, hanging out, making connections, and really just, it's a relaxed weekend for us because of the atmosphere, the people, the positive, like-minded, sexually free friends that we've made at these conventions. Always look forward to it. And again, Edison, New Jersey, November 3rd through 5th. If you're out in that area or open-minded and looking for something, we highly recommend this convention. Mm-hmm. And with that, we, again, like I said, are going to hop right into the tub with Casey and Lorenzo and get the interview started. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to follow us on our social medias, Twitter and Instagram, Berg Couple for Fun, Reddit and Facebook, The Bergs. Our website is inourtub.com, where you can listen to the show there, as well as Apple, Spotify, Pandora,
Any
Spreaker.
podcast platform you may use, pretty much.
At this point, again, yes, it has grown.
And twice a week on Full Swap Radio.
Yes, Full Swap Radio, Monday, 9 a.m. and Friday at 1 p.m. at fullswapradio.com.
Weather's starting to cool off.
Yeah, it's that time of the year. Hot tubs back up to 101. So take care of yourself. Get ready for the winter. As always, remember to wrap it before you tap it. Lick it before you stick it. Pay for your porn. And until next time,
we'll keep the lights on and the tub warm for you.
All right, welcome back in the tub for this week's episode. As we had shared, we have a full tub here this week. We have two very special guests joining us. She is an award-winning erotic author, fetish expert, online personality, fetish model, relationship coach, dom, and, as listeners know from my side, a cigar lover as well. He's a master with 40-plus years in the BDSM lifestyle, and he shares his experience as an educator and social media influencer. Please take a minute and welcome Casey Carter and Lorenzo into the tub with us this week. How are the two of you?
Well, nice and wet now.
Wet and warm.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know about too much warmth here in Pittsburgh, as we went from 80 right down to 50 overnight. So fall is here. We're done. It's over.
It's here in Georgia too. It's here in Georgia. So
out of nowhere.
Right.
yeah, but I, to some extent, once the leaves start falling, I'm just waiting.
Yep, it's that time. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, how soon do we turn the heat on?
Yeah.
Right.
Today.
Yeah. Or she's looking for the remote control for the infrared heaters that we have outside on the patio around the hot tub. She's like, where does those remotes? Why? We need heat already?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, again, thank you both for taking time out of your schedules. As we said in the intro, you both have a lot of different things happening, different things going on, and you're involved in a lot of different things. We first kind of crossed paths at the Exotica conventions, and over the years, seen a lot of what you do on social media and from talking to other people within the industry. So it really wanted to get you here today to discuss what it is and share some of, your knowledge and information with the listeners.
Well, thanks for having us, because Lorenzo, he typically says, okay, here's who wants to talk to us. And I'm like, okay, just let me know where I need to be and what time I need to be there.
Yep.
So, I was excited to be able to come together and chat, especially to hear that we've been crossing paths at Exotica for a while now. I especially get a giggle out of people that say that they've seen us but didn't say anything. So this is a great opportunity to have the conversation so that the next time you see us, we'll be talking at Exotica.
Oh, and exactly. And again, through the times at Exotica with you doing seminars, and again, just seeing you, it has always been that mainstay. And that really, to us as well, shows who you are, because people there know you. You're a staple with both of you in what you're doing, both in the industry and, again, in the lifestyle, as we shared prior, that we're kind of two-tiered. We talk about both aspects of sexuality and sexual positivity.
Yeah, that's, I think, the part that I always enjoy having the most conversation about is what brings people pleasure. As we talked a little bit briefly, trying to normalize sex and everything around sex. I kind of latched on to fetishes because it's that thing that folks, they don't want to talk about, they're ashamed to talk about, they've got questions, and I've spent a lot of time just trying to make people feel okay about their fetishes. And Lorenzo and I have spent a lot of time talking about legal issues surrounding sex and laws that are on the books that are absolutely insane. How to protect yourself, especially for the sex workers, how to protect yourself as it relates to law and the people you interact with. So, we sort of dabble in those spaces that don't get a lot of conversation, but are being had sort of in the dark, in the background, in the shadows. So it's always a pleasure when we can talk about those things.
Yeah, and as you said, it you don't realize until you really start digging in. There literally are some of these laws that are on books from 75, 80, 100 years ago that you're like, what, really? That's actually still a law and hasn't been addressed? It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. One of my favorites is in Texas. They limit the number of dildos or sex toys, or I think it's dildos specifically. They limit the number of dildos you can have. I want to know who's coming to my house to count my dildos, because I'm already probably going to be under arrest if this was Texas. You know what I'm saying? But it's the insanity of those kinds of things that, requires us to have these kinds of conversations, just to remind people how sex is demonized, and yet at the same time, sex is normal. And we should be having more conversation about it so that our kids don't grow up thinking that there's something wrong with them because they like wearing fuzzy outfits and rubbing up against each other, or that they like the idea of being on all fours as a dog or a cat, a kitty, or, especially because a lot of our kids today are into, manga and all of those kinds of things. And so it's just wanting to have conversation. I mean, it's just as simple as that, conversation.
And as a parent of a teenager, that's something that I've tried to do with him because my parents never did it with me.
Sure. And again, the world has changed because of the realm of social media and the internet. Back when we were growing up, yes, sex education was a class in school where they showed you a video of a woman giving birth, and okay, you put this into here and you make babies. Done.
Mm-hmm. And that's assuming you got that kind of education, because in other places, education was around abstinence. Don't do. We're not even going to talk to you about how we made the baby. We're going to talk to you about why you're not going to do it at all.
Well, and right. Mrs., you grew up going to
Catholic grade school.
Catholic school. So you had that.
Right. And that's, my mother grew up that way too. That's, like I said, that conversation wasn't had.
No, my parents never had the birds and the bees conversation with me. And now, again, they're seeing it online, on social media, on the internet. So yes, a conversation is the starting point. And so many people fear that conversation. I don't know if fear might be too strong of a word, but I think that's probably the right word, or pretty darn close to the right word.
Right. Or intimidated.
I think it makes them anxious. Yeah. Intimidated, anxious, fear. I think all those words are appropriate depending upon who you're talking about. And I have two 20-something-year-olds, and I've had different kinds of conversations with them, but I have very real conversations with them about toys and pleasure and lubes. And, I remember my son being like, hey, I've got condoms. I'm like, oh, but baby, it's more than the condoms. I'm glad you have the condoms, but it's more than the condoms, right? So, I actually happen to be someone who was fortunate enough to have a mother who had very frank and open discussions about sex. At 5 years old, she was explaining to me about vaginas and penises and how sex creates babies, and I never was allowed to call a vagina anything other than a vagina. Like, I couldn't call it a hoo-hoo, a ha-ha. your privates. I couldn't call it any of those things. I had to call it by its name. And we talked about it in terms of what it does and what it can do. And so I've grown up basically comfortable, even in the uncomfortable places of the things I didn't know. I was uncomfortable only because I didn't know, and I felt like I should. You know what I'm saying? Not because I was fearful or intimidated by or what have you. It was like, well, shoot, we talked about all of those things. Why didn't we talk about this? And I think that's a part of my love of fetish is this is that one space that people really don't want to talk about. Like we're not going to talk about the birds and the bees, but we are definitely not talking about that.
Yeah, that is tucked way back in the closet. Okay, you can have some sex toys and condoms in the front in the filing cabinet in the closet, but that other stuff is all the way buried in the back behind the Christmas tree and shit.
And today's generation, of course, there's a lack of communication between kids and parents and everything like that. My father had me in places due to a criminal element involved in places that I really, someone else my age would not have gotten into. So as far as the sex world, let's say the prostitution world and all that, at an early age, I was, privy to all of that and learned a lot that way. But there was a communication that was there, so there was no question. But that also opened it up into, like, say, the fetish community and the BDSM community at an early age. I was able to partake in some things that I normally would not have gotten a part of because of that experience. And that's what brought me into that.
And that's interesting because that was a question that we kind of had for both. What was that triggering of moving into that fetish and the BDSM? Because again, from our standpoint, it was something that like you saw and it was in adult entertainment, but off to the side, you didn't see much of and like, okay, we're not going to go there either. And we have since started dabbling in it because, well, Mrs. has found pleasure in it. I myself, I have probably struggled the most from the standpoint of
the fact that you do find pleasure in it.
And it is the dominant side and struggling with that. I'm inflicting a little bit of pain onto her, and how do at the same time when I've gotten over that, I'm like, okay, this is enjoyable because I see her pleasure and enjoyment. But it has been the biggest struggle for me to overcome personally.
I totally understand that last part that you said, but to the first part, how did I get into it? I gotta be honest, it sort of happened the minute I literally had sex. Like losing my virginity, and then the next thing I know, just trying whatever. Like my partner at the time was like, "Hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do that? Hey, you want to do this?" And I was like, "Okay," and enjoyed those things. And I would say it was literally just sticking my pinky into something and was like, okay, that's cool. And again, I think because my mother talked so much about sex that I was open to ideas and different things that were pleasurable. Especially when you find out, like, you get your toes sucked, your fingers sucked, and then you find out, okay, well, not everybody likes that. People think that's weird. And I'm like, oh, really? 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 Wow. Why would you think that was so weird? Like, you know what I'm saying? Or finding out that the person who was obsessed with rubbing on your feet, licking on your feet, sucking on your feet, looking at your feet, playing, finding out that was a fetish, and then rationalizing the fact that was of interest to them. And at the same time, I was totally digging on that. Why was I digging on that? So I think I just kind of went with the flow and allowed it to just evolve as it, came and went. But you said something that I totally can relate to as it, regarding the being a dominant and being concerned about inflicting pain. And I am very funny when it comes to working with a sub or a bottom. I don't generally like using women because I feel funny inflicting pain on them. I feel funny bruising or being aggressive with them. I prefer a male because I feel like men are, we just we're expecting men to be dominant. We're expecting them to have that masculine male energy. So in my mind, when a man allows me to be in control, when we have that power exchange, I find something so stimulating about that, because I'm like, it took something for him to release control and give it to me. So I take great pleasure in that. And I take pleasure in the fact that in that moment, I am allowed to push boundaries and test things and do things, and it excites me. I had, in a cold state, I can't do that with women. Like, I can't, looking at, your wife, I'd be like, no, I can't. She'd be like, oh, she could say, do this to me, do that to me. And I would initially be very reluctant and very hesitant, because I just instinctively don't want to inflict pain on a woman. Now, if I get warmed up, it's on and popping. I'll be good to go. And you're going to have to grab me to stop me. But I just can't automatically go there, just because I just don't want to put pain on a woman.
Yeah, you just can't flip that switch. And
I think maybe that's because women are more looked at more like they're breakable.
I don't even know if it's the breakable so much as I just don't want to be a woman beating on a woman. I think that's really what it boils down to. Something
and going back to what he said about it being hard for him to inflict pain or do something that might inflict pain, that's going back to that
societal norm.
Right.
That the male's dominant, but at the same time, that respect level that I grew up with. And it's, you know what, you treat the female like gold. That is what you do. And on the flip side, there's points where, and we've talked, where I'd like her to be switch and be like, shut your mouth and do this shit now. And she struggles with that. There's sometimes where I'd like to be the submissive, and it's like, and she struggles with that. So it really is. And I think a lot of people have those struggles. That's real, I think, in a lot of people.
Well, and I struggle with completely submitting also. I still want a little bit of that control where, like, if I'm restrained, I want to be able to get out when I've had enough.
She's at that point where, like, I'm done. All right, it's over. And watch out.
I still want to be the one to decide.
Well, that's just it, though. When you're in that position, the submissive, the bottom, the what have you, the slave, you do still have full control. You still have the ability to stop it on a dime, because even though, say, the dominant, the master, the top, or what have you, is inflicting all the pain or inflicting the correction or whatever that interaction is, you still hold all the cards. You still set the boundaries for what this experience is going to look like. So you're giving the permission to spank, flog, ball gag, all of those things. And at some point when you're done, you're done. It's the scene is over when you're ready for the scene to be over, unless something else has been negotiated. So definitely always, don't ever lose sight of your level of control just because this title has been put on it. You still have all the control in what that experience looks like and when it ends. And I think, again, like we said, having these conversations, that's one of those things that I think when you're new to BDSM, you assume that because I'm the submissive, I have no say. I have to take whatever is being given to me. And that is far from the truth. And one of the first things that should be explained is these things should be consensual. They should be negotiated in advance. And the submissive bottom slave, whatever the case is, needs to understand that, this only goes as far as you're ready for it to go. It stops whenever you're ready. And if you're with someone who doesn't understand what the stop is, what the hard stop is, that should be your last time you deal with them.
That is the last time. And I think too, from from Mrs. standpoint, a lot of it is rather than verbalizing, because there's a point where like some verbal you're not sure or comfortable with, you'd rather be like, all right, I'm taking off a restraint or I'm moving, I'm done, it's over. So it's more of an actionable stop, even though there's stop words, there's everything. It's more of an actionable type. And again, people need to grow into that. And as we continue to grow, and I'm sure we're not the only ones that have run into that.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely.
And listening to the two of you, you're at a beginning stage where you're still curious about this and that. And that's where that communication really comes into play. And talking to people like myself and Casey, and for your listeners, the same thing with the questions and all. My background's a little bit different than hers, where I was with, let's say, the old BDSM before it was publicized and put on social media. And it becomes more of a mental thing, more than, say, physical or sex related. So with you two, you have to decide mentally where you are and where you want to be exactly, because that's going to assist you in top, bottom, restraint. No, I want to do this, I want to switch and all that. The mental aspect is so important in what you're doing. Then it could progress to the impact part of it, and what elements of the impact, what are you going to use, the limits and all that. And like with, myself and Casey, there's so much knowledge that we have as far as to the the levels of where you may stop or Casey may stop, may be half of where I'm going, because some people want to go to another level that you can even not imagine the stories that can be told. It's unbelievable what certain fetishes are, and what mind control you can do that's even more than impact in the mental aspect of it also.
And I think the mental side really is, when you get into it, a lot into the BDSM world, a lot of that, even watching and myself doing some reading, mental plays a large part that I think people don't realize. They're like, all right, I'm just going to get a paddle and I'm just going to, but what you just said about mental is that can, from a lifestyle standpoint, the mental buildup and the mental, your endorphins and all the chemicals, that can build up to that pleasure even faster than other things.
Yeah, that's an unbelievable level. I tell people all the time, they'll talk a lot about, I beat this person, I did this, and I did that. And that's, and I asked, well, could you get the same response without touching them? I said, go back to the time when you were a kid and you messed up and your parents gave you that look. Just that look, you knew you were going to get it later on that day. So the whole day you were in suspense. You had an intimidation factor all day long from a look without them having to touch you. And you knew, even though I had a fun time all day, when I got home, I'm going to get beat. It's coming. So
you're right.
Think of that dominant presence in your life and how the mental aspect of it without touching you, just the look. Yeah. So when you're trained to do things like that, imagine the pleasure between you two with the mental and look before or during and the physical aspect. You can be taken to a whole different level like that.
And that, that same train of thought is applicable in just your regular vanilla sex. The idea that if I, put my panties in my husband's briefcase and he gets to work and he pops open the briefcase and there's the panties. And now we're thinking about these panties all day, right? Or vice versa, whatever little thing, you say to your female partner, now she's percolating all day in anticipation. So there is definitely something to be said for that mental, that mental game, whether it's your traditional, regular, vanilla scenario or whether it's the BDSM side. And when, like Lorenzo, I old school BDSM that goes way, way back to when a lot of the folks were in lifestyle. And like you were saying earlier, you don't do these things in lifestyle. So they now bring themselves out of lifestyle and go into BDSM. A lot of those old school folks will tell you it wasn't about sex. Oftentimes, sex happened after the scene. The scene had no sex, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
And a good portion of what happened was all mental. You know, I interviewed a woman by the name of Mistress Mir, and she told stories of kidnapping people, of, doing all kinds of things where at no point in time in that whole scene did anybody have sex. Afterwards, because we were so excited and whatnot, there might have been sex. But the majority of the things that happened did not include sex. And oftentimes they may not even included a whole lot of physical. You might have got beat on a little bit. You might have got set up. You might have been racked up. But it might have also been mainly the mental, and it's a big deal. I mean, Lorenzo and I had a chance to talk a lot to Mistress Mir, and I'm sure he related a lot to some of the things she talked about, because she was in the scene back in the 70s. And in the scene, this is an African American woman, so she was back in the scene when very few Black people were there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started training about 1980, and it was only communication was talking on the phone, newspaper back pages, who you knew, because you had no cell phone, social media, none of that. So imagine being a dominant with a submissive that you don't even call unless it's on the phone. So that means they're going to have to be available on the phone. You even wrote letters back then, and still did things like that. So you talked, and it's a whole another world, as I say, pre-social media and post-social media. And, for you, like you say, and your listeners also, this brings us to the safety aspect. A lot of people haven't even learned the anatomy of your bodies and start playing around like with choking and things like that. And you don't even know how to choke properly, and things like that. So if you're going to start doing things like that, you really got to learn the safety aspect of things, because everything looks good on TV and these movies and all that, but you can really hurt each other very bad. That's where it's good to talk to people, and people do talk to us, as you saw in Exotica. We have fun and everything, but you could tell that there's a professionalism about us. And that's where people have confidence to talk and, and get information like that.
Yeah. And again, there's definitely a lot of growth, the safety that, there was a point back when kind of the impact started with us that Mrs. as well was put your hand around my neck. And I was like, oh. And from a mental standpoint, as we kind of flip back to that, from her, I could tell just the change. And that was just a light, okay, let me grab. But I'm like, look, there's not pressure, anything like that. Let's look into this more. Talk to people. Look, it needs to be sides, not straight on, this, that. A lot of different steps. So sometimes it's just little things. But again, as we've just talked for the last few minutes, mental and that thought process in your mind as much, it maybe even more so than the physical side.
But like you say, little things also, and you'll see it at Exoticas. People will pick up a flogger and flog each other just for the fun of it. And immediately they will flog right where your kidneys are, and you can rupture your kidneys. That's a basic mistake that everyone makes, because you haven't learned the anatomy of the body. And there's spots that you do not touch with floggers or paddles and stuff, and there's other spots. But if you don't have that knowledge, and people selling floggers may not tell you or have a poster up on positive parts, non-positive, and that's very important there, because it doesn't take a lot of pressure to really hurt your body.
Right. And that was a concern too with starting with the floggers. I bruise very easily. So it was, let's go easy, because it doesn't doesn't take much. And that's really not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and there's different types of floggers. different materials. On floggers that may adapt to your skin or your body tone differently. And that's just where research, asking questions, and taking your time. It's no rush.
Exactly. Where, you know what? Take your time, make sure you understand and you learn, because again, you can inflict bodily harm, not just the pain, for the pleasure you're looking for.
Right. Yeah. And then you can also, in some ways, create a mental challenge for the person as well. Because if I'm already challenged by this is taboo, this is not something we're supposed to be doing. If something goes wrong, that now compounds whatever I was already trying to work through. And so there's, and we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of people have injuries inflicted upon them. We're seeing people who are being mentally abused by their BDSM experiences. I personally have a work associate who knows what I do when I'm not at work. And so she, talks to me about her interest, and she shared with me this person that she started interacting with. And I keep saying to her, excuse me, that's not healthy. That's not correct. You need to get out of that. And at the same time, she's like, yeah, but I'm like, no, yeah, but take it from somebody who knows this is dangerous and you've got to get out. So, folks have to also recognize that you can inflict some emotional pain that can leave some significant scars.
And you come to, unfortunately, you're balancing pleasure and literally abuse. Literally criminal charges. If you want to go that far.
Well, and that's why I say Lorenzo and I talk about that.
Yeah.
Because he can tell you that.
Let me
for this stuff.
Yeah, definitely. With my, I have a law enforcement background, and BDSM is illegal in America. So you got to always remember that there is no legal place that you can inflict any pain on another human being legally, even with their consent. So you have to know how to word things, how to say specifically, and how not to say when it comes to that. And that's something that we teach in, some of our seminars, and that is how to interact with law enforcement and things, because you can go to jail. A judge doesn't want to hear about impact. My dynamic was, there's none of that in case law. They don't have time for anything like that. And then what I call these Amazon DOMs that you can buy overnight and, get 2 for the price of $19.95, without shipping and all this. And these guys or ladies are out here hurting people, because there are some submissives who want to give their life, their body and soul to someone, and someone's not really prepared and they're just playing. Like I tell them, if you're a sex dom, just call yourself that. Wear a t-shirt and say that's what you want to do. If you just want to beat on somebody, put it on a shirt. I just want to beat on somebody. But don't take on the role of someone that is going to help and cultivate somebody's life 24 hours a day and, go out there and hurt somebody, because it causes mental problems, suicides, everything like that. There's some people that really need that stability and they're looking for something, and there are people out here playing games. Yeah. And it's a very dangerous thing out there.
Especially because, the possibility for someone to be triggered can happen. And then the possibility for someone to spiral. There are people who actually get therapy from their BDSM practice, literal therapy. There are people who have freely acknowledged that BDSM, some form of BDSM has allowed them to work through a previous trauma. So this is a space that, while we talk about the pleasure it brings, it is also therapeutic for some people. And it is also a place that, again, you could send someone spiraling because it could trigger something for someone. Using, for example, the choking, you might say, someone may tell you, hey, put your hand around my neck. I want you to choke me. And then the next thing you know, they could be freaking out, and you have no idea why they're freaking out. And it's because something snapped, some memory came rushing back, and now they're having to fight through those emotions. And you're like, I just did what you asked me. I don't know what just happened. You know what I'm saying? So it is such a kind of a teeter-totter where it could be absolutely amazing, or it could be ratchet, and not because there's anything wrong with the kink or the fetish in and of itself. It's just, you just don't know where this is going to go if you don't have the proper amount of communication.
And that's what I was going to say. It's that communication and knowing your partner, because you are always going to be walking that line.
Correct.
And that obviously is where, and I think maybe from our end, that was always something that was a concern. Okay, it's going to be walking that fine line where, yeah, we can be in the lifestyle, and honestly, it turns me on to watch her with other people having sex. But, well, all right, to watch, for myself to inflict that, okay, what is the negative side of it? Has to be we talk about lifestyle throughout every episode. Communication is key. Communication is even more so key when you get into the BDSM world.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because, when I talk about things being a trigger, sometimes the person doesn't even realize that there's this trigger, so you have to talk. You have to get them to reveal what's going on in their head. And then you, as the dominant, have to be checking in. You have to be watching their body language, because, if you've got a safe word, if you use something as simple as a red, yellow, green, and they're not giving you any signals, but you're looking at their body and you're saying, okay, something's not looking right. The way you're responding to this paddle is a little concerning to me, or, it's all of those things. I mean, it is literally like when they say it's a power exchange, it really is this power exchange. And you've got to know what you're dealing with that person, where their head is at, what's going on in their past. And then you have to watch their body's reaction to the things that you're doing to it. Because in some cases, I'm so far gone, I may not even be able to express that last swat was painful, not pleasurable. Because there is the pleasure in the pain, but that last one, I ain't really like that one. But I'm so far gone, I can't even get my mouth to tell you.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it's those physical keys. And over years, I mean, from her side, if we're just having sex, I know the physical keys that I'm like, all right, she's about to have an orgasm. She didn't have to say shit. I'm like, within the next 30 seconds to a minute, she's going to pop. And you have to be aware of everything in your surroundings. Okay.
But at the same time,
none of that changes.
Right. But at the same time, those signs where, like, if I start to pull back a little bit, okay, the position's not right.
Little thing, it's like, all right, stop. So again, safe words are, you need to have it, but that isn't necessarily the end all be all, because of the added, as you had said, you're so into that moment, but you're going to flinch or move a different way and not necessarily verbalize it. As from the Dom side, you need to
be able to read those physical cues.
Yes.
It's not a game. It's not a game, and you really have to be serious when you take that responsibility on. I have to know the way your breathing patterns are, your heart rate, the coloration in your skin, and guide you to where you may not know you can go, because I'm going to take you there. So there's little things, but for you two, it's a great thing that you're even getting ready, exploring that. That's opening up your world to something that's unbelievable. So that's a congratulations to you two. and to be
well, and I think
heading in that direction.
I think that's an important thing to stress, is that it's a responsibility when you are the dom, the top, it's a responsibility taking care of your partner.
Yes.
Right.
And that's why I say there's a lot of people that you don't want to deal with because they're not prepared for that.
Yeah,
they think they are. They're not. They're not prepared. They're not even able to take care of themselves. So dealing with that with another human, and they really don't want that responsibility.
And I think too, they themselves haven't done the research to understand what the role is. All they're thinking is, I can beat, flog, spank. I can make this person do things, and when I tell them to do things, like they're in it like it's a game. As opposed to, again, this is for some people pleasure, for some people therapy, and you have to respect and understand that. And so it is very dangerous. Like I said, my work associate, this person that she's dealing with, I'm like, who is this loser? Like,
yeah, and again, like you said, where did you find this person? It has to be that trust and that knowledge, and it can't be just someone off the internet. Oh, hey, yeah, this guy's all right. Yeah, let's get together. It's this lifestyle isn't a hookup lifestyle as the swingers lifestyle could be. This is a whole different realm of trust and knowing. And is it friendship? Yes, there has to be a friendship. And again, just a connection.
Right.
This isn't a one and done and hookup.
No. And most people will tell you, whether they come from the old school experience or whether they're from, say, the more recent times, you go to a munch, you go to a dungeon. There's a lot of socializing. There's a lot of observation. A lot of the people that I've interacted with have either asked about me or watched me. They didn't just, say, hey, I want somebody to flog me. You flog me. It wasn't that. You know what I'm saying? To your point, you can just hook up with somebody for the sex and it's all good and everybody can go their merry way and we don't have to talk a whole lot. But when it comes to all of this stuff, there has to be some sort of communication to even get to that place of, are you someone who likes to be tied, flogged, spanked, paddled? You got to have some kind of conversation before you can even get to any of that. So it is, never more has communication been significant, or even taking the time to vet someone and understanding whether or not this is somebody who has a little bit of an idea of what they're doing, as opposed to some fool who just, like Lorenzo said, bought some floggers on sale on Amazon because it was Amazon Prime Day.
And watched a YouTube video.
I always tell people that, are seeking true dominant does not advertise. You'll know. If you see
they don't have to advertise. Yeah.
No, you don't have to. If you see Casey and I in a munch or meet and greet and all that, a submissive person will immediately know that we're a dominant personality. You don't have to talk about that,
One of my very first experiences, and what he just said reminded me of this. Our very first Exotica was, 2018, 2017?
Yeah, 2017.
Okay, so 2017, we were in the Clips for Sale booth. And I was busy just talking. But in my peripheral, there was a guy just standing there, just standing, looking in my direction, but not looking directly at me. And I'm talking. And I believe, correct me, Lorenzo, I think you eventually went over and... Yeah,
and I pointed to him and told him that he could come over because he was not going to approach Casey without getting her permission to approach her. No, okay. That's just, how it is. A lot of people are like that, and they are not going to do it because they know it's a dominant presence there.
Us.
And so he turned out to be a professional submissive.
Oh, okay.
And wanted the opportunity to talk about doing some work together. And he was showing me, he had photos from photo shoots that he had done, and he was prepared to give me his, what do you call it? References. I mean, but it was this thing where I saw him in my peripheral. Lorenzo saw him, and when I tell you, dude stopped dead in his tracks and just stood there. And I'm like, this is someone who understands. He knows exactly what's going on. Mm-hmm. And he was going to wait to be acknowledged. This has happened more times than I can imagine, I can tell you when we've been at Exotica. And I don't even advertise. I don't even promote that part of my life. It's just the presence. So it is not uncommon for someone to stop still and just wait to be acknowledged. And to be honest, I usually get a giggle out of letting Lorenzo acknowledge them and go talk to them and then come back and say something to me. And then he can call them over. It's like a whole dance sort of thing,
But Chris, you were getting ready to say something about that approaching her.
And I was going to say, as we talked prior to the recording, yes, we have crossed paths in Exoticas and have never had a conversation. And there was that dominant figure with both of you. And it was like, oh, and again, we have mutual friends. They're great. They're awesome. And everything we've always seen is you guys are great people. But it was like, ooh. Kind of that intimidation step around. And again, I talked about the cigars, seen Casey having a cigar, and I'm like, I always have cigars. Oh, it'd be great to just sit and have a conversation with a cigar. But I'm like, okay, the permission and the steps to introduce. There's been a few performers in that Dom scene that were that way at Exoticas. And you guys were in, there's two others specifically. And the one, her PR agent had said, go and meet her. And then the other one, the reality is, we didn't talk to her at an Exotica until after we saw her featured dance here in Pittsburgh. And that was Rubber Doll.
Oh, okay.
And she has her booth at Exotica, and it was always like, ooh, oh yeah.
No, we did do one year where I do have pictures.
There were pictures, but
from her
it was always just that. All right, presence. We know the presence.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But we're also we don't go to these Exoticas and if a performer's having a conversation or involved with something, we're not walking up and just pushing in. That's just not.
We're not going to stand in the line. It's like, okay, there you go. So. Again, this year we got a few weeks away. All right, we're gonna have a cigar. We're gonna sit back. We're gonna relax, and we're gonna have a conversation. And just again, learning, from this conversation that we've had over the last 40 minutes, has been eye-opening, and hopefully some listeners have learned some of the little nuances.
Yeah.
Again, because as you dip your toes in and you kind of grow, there is so many different layers within this lifestyle. I don't know. I don't want to call them hurdles, but they're steps. It's like playing a board game. You need to follow the path and do the right things.
Yeah, definitely. Take your time. The red flag is there for a reason. Mm-hmm. Don't overlook that red flag. It's there for a reason. It's no rush. Just take your time with it.
Yeah, and get through.
Yeah. Well, I definitely love the new person, the folks just feeling their way in. Those are my favorite because nobody really wants to talk to them. People who are seasoned kind of don't want to ask what they perceive to be juvenile, novice questions. They just, they kind of sort of want you to come on in and get it. And I like the slow and the hey, whatever. I like, because one of the other classes that I teach is pervertibles. Pervertibles are household items that you use like you would use any other BDSM toy. And it's that space where I can help people understand too afraid to go to the toy store, too afraid, don't really know what they want to buy. I don't want to spend $100 on a flogger, but I also recognize that the $20 flogger might not last the session, right? So
Yeah.
what do I do? How do I figure this out? Pervertibles are your friend. You don't ever have to buy a toy to figure out what you like if you understand that you can use things around your house the same way you can use some of these other things. So this is why I love a new kinkster, because there's a lot of space to play, and a lot of space to just try things out, see what you like.
And to help someone new, again, go in a direction that their mind may not already be clouded by previous information that may not be the truth or the fact. And we've seen it in the lifestyle. Like the new people, do we get someone, hey, we're newbies and we haven't been with anybody yet and we want to hook up with somebody. We have and we haven't. It's kind of that's a tough situation. But
right.
From this side of the BDSM, because there are a lot more steps involved and the right direction. And again, you want someone that has maybe this fetish to be positive about it and not go
right.
somewhere where they have a bad experience.
Absolutely. And that's why this conversation is so invaluable. So grateful to have end. I mean, granted, it ends today, but I'm saying from an ongoing perspective, it is something that we need to continually be having.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And conversation, as we said, conversation is important.
Yeah, definitely. And with like I say, if you see Casey and I at Exotic or anywhere, just approach, just say hi.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised, the conversation that you can have. And like for your listeners and all that, any questions and things like that, always available, to talk and discuss things.
Yeah, and again,
always there to help.
Yeah, both of you are very prominent on social media. And before we wrap up, we'll definitely make sure that we have your social media links for everybody to listen to or to everybody to jump on. And another kind of question outside of this, Casey, you're on YouTube with a podcast and a weekly show still, correct?
Yes. So technically there's two, although my personal show I've sort of pulled back on for a minute, but I do have two shows that air on YouTube. Okay.
Can you share a little bit about what is this? Are these the topics you discuss there? What's that?
So Casey at Night is my show, and Casey at Night was literally started to have these kinds of conversations. So I started off writing erotic short stories and found it very difficult to promote the writing. It's hard to talk about it on Facebook, right? So I utilized Periscope at the time to not only have these kinds of conversations, but really it started off with me reading some of my short stories to promote the sales. Then I started reading from other people's stories to help them. All of that reading led to conversations about the topics in the stories. And so Casey at Night grew from being something I used to promote my writings to something I used to teach. And it was a lot of conversation about fetish, a lot of conversation about relationship, a lot of conversation about the legal stuff. And so I kind of sort of really built my brand on that, on having those conversations.
Very nice. You said it's kind of on the back burner. Do you have a vision of bringing that back regularly?
Yes, I do. Okay. It's honestly part of why it was on the back burner. It was just there's only but so much time in the day and in the week, and I had been trying out. I had tried out some things that I think I did not like as much as I thought I would, and so now I'm literally trying to create the space to go back to, and I've talked about this with Lorenzo, I will probably go back to what I did originally, which was the stories and the conversations about the topics and the stories, and minimize some of the new stuff I thought I wanted to do, because it just got very cumbersome. And then the other thing I do, the other show that I do is in 2020, Exotica, because we weren't doing the conventions, started doing shows on YouTube, and there were a series of shows that were aired via Exotica TV on YouTube. One of those shows was called BoobTube. It was probably the most vanilla of all the shows that they did, because we literally just talked about TV, movie, and streaming.
Yeah,
literally is all we talked about. And so 3 years later, BoobTube is, like, I think the only show left on that is weekly live on YouTube. And earlier this year, I was given the reins to actually produce it. So
nice, congrats!
Yeah, pretty proud of that. But yeah, so those are the two things that I do: the Casey at Night, which is not so vanilla, and BoobTube, which is ironically vanilla, but hosted by people who are not so vanilla.
Every once in a while, you got to wind down a little bit, and that's what we've said. Look, if you're vanilla, every once in a while, you got to get a little freaky, and vice versa. So, all right, interesting.
Yeah, Casey, also, like she said, has the writing, and we'll be doing more audio reading. I do the voiceover work for a lot of people, and audio narrations, and things like that. So we're going to be doing some of her books and some of the stuff we collaborated on, doing audio versions. Like that also.
Oh, very nice.
You may hear me in different places. So.
Very nice. All right, cool. Well, again, some other things to look forward to, and as you guys said, with the Exoticas coming up, you guys have always been staples. So this year, New Jersey and DC, you'll be at both.
Yeah, we'll be at both.
Okay,
definitely. Just announced our booth 214, so you can catch us at booth 214. At Edison, New Jersey.
All right.
Yeah.
And as listeners know, that is November 3, 4, and 5.
Correct.
Or 2, 3, and 4. It's 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, 5.
Yep.
It's totally thrown you that it's not my birthday weekend anymore.
Yeah. So up until this year, it has always been, so our anniversary is October 20th, and her birthday is October 23rd. From 2017, it was always a weekend that hit either one or both of those.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So this is the first year where they actually backed it off to literally a week and a half from what it had been into November.
Yes.
And then I think it's like the first week in December too in DC. Literally, there's only 3 weeks in between the two.
Yeah, when they came back in 2020, that Jersey date sort of shifted a little bit, and then the DC they plugged it in for that first week. So yeah, you literally barely have time to breathe.
Yeah.
After Jersey.
Yeah, it's such a quick turnaround. I mean, for us, DC is a shorter travel for us as compared to New Jersey. It's about 4.5 hours for us to get to New Jersey, but we can get to DC in 3.5. Being it's outside of DC, being it's in Chantilly, and so that's not too bad. But then again, driving across the state of Pennsylvania in December, you never know what you're going to hit.
Right.
Yeah. No, I've driven from Connecticut to Cincinnati.
Oh.
And driving through the state of Pennsylvania feels like you're in prison and you're never getting out.
Yes. And Mrs. is from Connecticut. Mm-hmm. We lived up in Connecticut for a while after we met in college. So, yeah, that drive is terrible. Mm-hmm. And I know Cincinnati as well because that's part of my area that I have covered with work. So that the drive from Pennsylvania to Cincinnati too is just like, oh my gosh.
Never ends. Never ends.
We will see you too at New Jersey.
Yes, definitely.
It's gonna work out.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have some. have some cigars. We can sit and have a conversation. So as we wrap up, before we go, can both of you let the listeners know where can they find you online and on social media?
So you can find me on Instagram at Experience Casey, Twitter at READ Casey Carter, and on YouTube at Casey at Night. And then my website is casey-carter.com.
All right, and you can get me on Twitter at Lorenzo 4016 and on Instagram at Lorenzo G 2920.
All right. Very good. Well, again, we appreciate the time you guys took out of your day. It was an extremely informative for us, as well as hopefully the listeners. It was great finally getting to talk to you guys, and wish both of you all the best of luck in the future, and look forward to New Jersey here in a few weeks.
Yes. Look forward to seeing you in Jersey.
All right.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.